So we have another failed lifter 6.0. This one here is a 2006, uh, about 200,000 miles, 180 some odd thousand miles. Front cover, of course. Here's the got a really big gouge in there, a little bit on the bottom too. The gears, they're around here somewhere. They're chowdered up. Yeah, flat cam, flat lifter. Rollers missing out of it. Obviously, they went through the oil pump, so became a no run, no start, no oil pressure. So I started tearing it down here because we want to. What do we have to work with here? Can we save this? Do we want to short block it? You know, what are we doing? So anyway, got the pistons all knocked out of it. Got some decent wear in the cylinder walls. Checking the piston pins, man, I feel nothing in those at all. Every one of them, it's unbelievable. But the rod bearings, I mean, they look normal. They got a normal wear on them. They look good. Haven't seen the main bearings yet, but we're going to pull the bed plate off and we'll do some miking on the crank. I do see a little bit of wear on the crankshaft. We'll measure it, do some measuring around it, and see what we can do with the crankshaft. I mean, we may have enough meat there to where if we just did a polish, uh, it might be fine. But the micrometer will tell. Boy, that one's really got some wear on it. Okay, well, we'll get that out of there and we'll look at it. Maintenance is important, people, because that wear didn't happen because the lifter failure. I mean, this thing's pretty black inside, so you want to keep an eye on that. Make sure you're doing your maintenance. Anyway, let me get this bed plate off of here, and we'll see what this crankshaft looks like. We'll do some measuring and see what we got to do here. So we got our crankshaft out here. Did some measuring. These things are pretty amazing. I mean, unless you have a serious catastrophic failure, these cranks are always usually in pretty damn nice shape. So our published spec from Ford is way off on the main journals, but the spec is going to be 3.1885 to 3.1895, and we're coming in consistently on all of these at 3.1880. So we're good there. On our rod journals, they got that part right, but the spec is 2.716 to 2.717, and we're coming in consistently 2.716 on the rod journals. They do have, a little bit of debris went through them, but polishing this up is going to be better than turning it. On our rods, we checked them for straightness. We checked concentricity after torquing the caps on, and we're going to run these because I have no play in the pin, even with a used pin. I don't have a new pin here to check, but with a new pin, you're going to get a little bit of wear on these pins. Not much, not as much as you are on the bushing, but if it's tight with a used pin, it's going to be great with a brand new pin. So the rods are all good. We're gonna go ahead and go with these. Anyway, we need to get that lifter out of there. It's stuck in there. We're gonna have to take it out this way when we pull the camshaft out. But we had two bad lobes. Well, the lobes are not in that great a shape because a lot of metal went between the roller on the lifters and the camshaft. So, I mean, the camshaft is garbage anyway because of that. But the thing about this is it ran fine. You would have never known it had an issue until it quit running, And this one did not have a magnet on the drain plug. So it had an aftermarket, drain plug in it with no magnet on it. So a guy would have no way of knowing without a magnet on there. I mean, you'd have metal shards stuck to the magnet because when the camshaft's eating itself up there in the lifter, it's going to go right into the crankcase. And, you have no way of knowing that unless you actually, inspect your oil, run it through a filter or something to see if anything is in there, big pieces of metal and stuff. but it could be laying in the bottom of the pan and not come out. It'll still be in there. I find that a lot. You pull the pan off, after some kind of a failure, and there's still a lot of crap in the bottom of the pan, even after you drain the oil out of it. So keep that stock plug with the magnet in there. I mean, they're not that expensive, and you can get them. I think you can even get them aftermarket, but you want to have that magnet in there because that's going to tell you what's going on inside the engine, because you could be losing a lifter and not even knowing it. So, until it's too late. And of course, the result is going to be about the same, except that, maybe you won't have to it might not destroy, if you get enough metal in there and goes through the filter, it might not destroy your crankshaft or something of that nature. But anyway, yeah, high mileage lifters are going to fail. Should be a maintenance item. Bearings are also going to be a maintenance item. We get up around 200,000 miles. Um, you're probably about due for some bearings. So, they're not, when you take an engine apart, if you got a reseal, I mean, check that. The cylinders in this thing, it's going to have to be bored, because you're not going to put it back together like that. So you got to figure out what you're looking for, where you're going to start, where you're going to stop. But I've seen a lot of them that had decent cylinders, when you're doing a reseal on them, and let's throw some do some measurements. Let's throw some bearings in here. So when we go to do our bearing clearances on these, pretty wide spec on the main bearings. It's, I would say we're going to shoot for 2000s on them, on both the rods and the mains. I mean, it's up to 3000s plus for the upper end of the spec on the main bearings. But hopefully we'll get a set of bearings, and it'll come right in the 2000s, right in there. And 1.5 thou for the rods, probably a little bit too tight. So 2, or maybe a little bit more on those. uh, if the mains went to 3000s, I wouldn't lose any sleep over that. I'd like to see it, 2.5 thousands be great, or just slightly over 2000s would be awesome. But if it's a little more than that, nothing to worry about. Anyway, these things are pretty damn durable for all the shit that goes on with them, all the failures they have. They just, they don't seem to destroy themselves unless you have a pretty catastrophic failure of some sort inside the engine. So, we're gonna get this thing down to the machine shop and send the crank in. We'll have it polished and get some new parts and put this thing back together. So I believe this is number 4 or 5 with a failed lifter. So anyway, have a good day.